Have you ever heard the term destination discrimination? Well, that's what we're going to be talking about today on today's episode. Hey everyone, Chris here from Real Rideshare Stories. On this channel, we do a lot of different things within the rideshare industry, so if you're new here, make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring the bell for notifications. But before we get started, if you have a crazy Uber Lyft experience, whether you're a passenger or a driver, record it, send it my way, and maybe we could feature you on the channel. All right, do you ever wonder why you don't know the passenger's end location or drop-off location when you're going to a ride? It's actually due to this thing called destination discrimination. So what they tried to do was to end drivers discriminating against certain drop-off areas, whether it be an area they don't want to go into or an area that's too far away, or if it's too short of a ride. So there's a lot of different things why they don't want to share that information. But I just threw out a term out there that many people may not have heard, and if you have heard it, it's definitely a term that is not used quite often, and that is destination discrimination. So we're going to be talking about that real quick, kind of defining what it is, giving you guys a couple scenarios on what it is, so if you find yourself in this, to kind of stop doing that type of behavior, because it can be considered discrimination at the destination, and it kind of actually get you deactivated. So it is practice. If you are doing it, stop doing that, because you could get deactivated for it. So again, it's not a term that's used often. It's usually thrown around every once in a while if somebody gets deactivated for it. But yeah, you don't really see it too often. So I do want to cover that, because if you do dive through the driver app and you go through some of the FAQ on the help section, you can come across something that says driver discrimination inside Uber's platform. Now it is both on Uber and Lyft's platform, because it is within the terms of service and community guidelines, as well as certain state and local laws that have adopted this type of legislation where you can't discriminate against the destination. So what is destination discrimination? Destination discrimination is basically where a driver will cancel or not want to take a ride due to the end drop-off, the end destination, wherever the passenger is going. So there could be a few reasons for it. So why people do it, or what have been done in the past. So we're going to go through a couple of scenarios on what it is. First scenario is, you get a ping for a ride, you go, you pick it up, you see that the passenger is only going, down the block a couple of streets where you feel that they could walk, and you feel it's not worth your time. So you just don't want to take that ride. That is a form of destination discrimination. So you don't want to take that ride based on the fact that it's only a few streets away. So you don't do that. Another scenario is you pick up a passenger and it's going into an area that's the opposite direction of where you want to go. So let's say you're at the north end of a city and you want to go to the south end of the city, but the destination that you're going is going to go further north to maybe a suburb of that city. So you don't want to take that. And you end up canceling on the ride because you don't want to go in the opposite direction of where you're supposed to. Again, that's considered driver discrimination and something that you don't want to fall into doing, because again, you can get deactivated for it. Another scenario is when you pick up somebody and you see that they're going into an area that you don't want to go into. For whatever reason. Maybe it's a high crime area. Maybe it's an area where you aren't too familiar with, or maybe it's just any area you don't like driving into for any reason. Maybe the police there are very strict in that, and you don't like driving in that area because it's a speed trap, and if you go 1 mile an hour over, there's the flashing lights behind you. Whatever it might be, you can't discriminate, again, based on the end destination. So if you pick up a rider and you don't like the area they're going into for whatever reason it might be, that's again, destination discrimination, something you don't want to do. And last scenario I'm going to talk about, because this is also another thing, is if you accept a ride and the destination is a long ride, if you cancel on that ride, that can be considered destination discrimination as well too. Now, there are reasons for canceling on the long-term ride. Maybe it's just because you only have maybe 3 hours left in your drive. So if you take a ride that's an hour and a half away, that means you have an hour and a half to get back. So you got to take your schedule into account. So if you call the passenger and say, hey, I don't mind taking the ride, but I need to know the destination or the distance, because I have prior obligations, so if it's more than an hour and a half away, I'm not able to take it because of certain things. You can talk with the passenger on that, but again, it can be considered destination discrimination. So there's certain things that need to be, I feel, in place so it protects the driver a little bit more, especially on longer rides. Now, the other scenarios that I was giving, hey, that's just take the ride. If it's a few streets, it's a few streets, no big deal. That's a ride. Sometimes that can actually count towards, a quest or a promotion or something that's going on. So that can actually be beneficial to take short rides. Yes, I understand the long pickups that you might have to endure for only a short ride. Lyft is working on that, but the pay structure behind it is a problem. And that's something I'm going to cover in a future video, is if pay structure from Lyft for these long rides, is it actually worth it? So that is something I'm going to be covering in a future video. So make sure you subscribe and ring the bell so you'll catch that video as well too. But going back to today's topic and destination discrimination, take that short ride. It can be an extra ride for you. Also, if you go into an area that's maybe the opposite direction of the area you want to go into, hey, that's fine. That's why they invented destination filters. So it'll look for destinations that are going to or in the direction that you're going to. Yes, they do need work, but they have been working pretty well that I've been using recently. So I don't know if it was something that they switched around and then, recoded, and now it's starting to work better again. But whatever it might be. And then also, if it's into an area that you don't want to go into, and you just are feeling unsure about that area itself, take the passenger in there. But you can also put on cancel all new requests, both on Uber's platform and Lyft's platform. So if you don't want to take a ride being picked up in an area that you don't want to go into for whatever reason, maybe, like I said, high crime, problems with past drivers, getting mugged or anything like that, you can exercise your right as a contractor not to accept rides in certain areas. You can do that just because if you feel unsafe. So you can hit the cancel new requests, but just drop that person off. No big deal. And again, for the long rides, this is where it gets to a problem, because certain long rides could be hours. Maybe your shift is only going to last a certain amount. So if you have that 45 plus minute pop-up on your ping screen to accept or deny, you kind of got to weigh that option. Yes, I've heard where it might say 60 plus minutes, but I have never come across that, and I've taken rides that are over an hour long, and I've never seen anything that say 60 plus minutes. But still, you know, only having those two filters or those two tiers is not the best idea. These companies, these platforms should put something maybe every half hour. So if you see something that's going to be 45 minutes away, instead of doing, 45-minute expected to, 12 hours away, let's do something every half hour. So it might show 45 plus minutes, 1 hour and 15 plus minutes, 1 hour, 45 plus minutes, 2 hour, 15 plus minute, and so on. Just so then people can make better decisions based on that, on the accepting screen. Because, that's what I'm going to do. If I get a long ride request and it's kind of in this little window of time where, hey, if it's only an hour away and I can take it, that's no big deal. But if it starts getting into 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 hours away, that can be a whole different beast right there. I like the long rides. If I had a 5-6 hour ride, if I had the time to do it, I'd take it. I don't have a problem doing that. But some drivers do, based on many different factors. And yes, I do a lot of things besides driving Uber and Lyft. So that's why I only do this part-time. So my time is valuable depending on things. So I don't want to get dinged on discrimination based on something that's a destination that's too far, because I have other obligations going on as well. I want to make sure that I'm in compliance, so I can't, have these issues where I could be deactivated for some reason. But yeah, this is something that you want to consider and things that you want to figure out for yourself. But yes, destination discrimination is a real thing. It is in Uber's community guidelines of not allowing it to happen. So it's something that you really want to pay attention to. So if you're canceling on rides due to their destination, stop doing that immediately, because it can deactivate you, and it's something that you don't want to do. It's something you don't want to fall victim to. Just take the ride, and if you have a problem with it, on the accept or deny screen before the ride begins, you have the option to accept or deny a ride. So if you don't want to take a ride for whatever reason, maybe it's too long, maybe whatever, hey, you are in full right to accept or deny a ride based on any reason. But don't accept a ride and then cancel on that ride based on its destination. It's something you can't do. Again, it's against TOS, it's against community guidelines. You can be deactivated for it. So just don't do it. All right, guys, with that being said, that's the end of today's video. If you've experienced any destination discrimination, or if you accidentally did it and didn't realize that that is a real thing, comment below, let me know what happened. And if you didn't know, now you do know. So just stop doing that altogether. Finish the ride, take it where it is. You could be mad for a long pickup with a short ride, or just going a couple of streets or into a bad neighborhood, or 3 hours away, or whatever it is. But just take the ride. There's some problems with it on certain things, like I said, especially more on the long ride of things versus, some of these other rides. But yeah, don't do it, whatever you do. But make sure you hit that subscribe button, ring the bell for notifications, so you'll be notified for all of our upcoming videos. Also, give this video a thumbs up if you didn't know what destination discrimination was, and if you got some value out of it. So give it a good thumbs up for that. And as always, never drink and drive, always tip your drivers, and we'll see you next time.